Let's talk about living trees as a building supply. I have a book called How to Grow a Chair. And the author of that book has also written another book I'd love to get my hands on. And I have a lot of trees here. And I've done a lot of experiments of just kind of messing with them in different ways to shape them and change how they are. In some cases to increase habitat. Like if I cut down an oak at this level, I've done this, then it will resprout. It doesn't die normally. A different time I did drill holes in it and I infected it with maitake mushrooms or something. And it did make mushrooms, but then it was fighting with living and dying. It was a pretty cool experiment. But I think about the need for shade and how cities are designed so that they're just concrete. They're designed horribly. And so what I want to do here is make sure that as I clear areas and make spaces, that we have the correct trees surrounding a building, and so that it's a big shaded porch. Now that does not protect against rain entirely, although if you shape a tree correctly, you'll notice under a tree it's dry, and it depends on how much rain it is. But then I got thinking, and I was really starting to think, like, if I really start thinking of trees as a building supply. Why does my lighting suck so much? It's because it's the middle of the damn day. I'm walking the wrong direction. Oh well, sorry. And I was thinking, like, I could put circles of trees and make a tower. And at first I was like, it's just really fun to climb trees, right? It's like a jungle gym. It's a thing kids like. Adults like it too. And I was thinking, and I already have done this with some cedars, where I made a circle of cedars, and it's come along really well. Maybe I'll pass by there and show it to you if I'm still talking about this by then. That was designed as a fire circle to protect a campfire against wind. So it was originally I thought I was going to make a dome and pull the tops together. Now I realize I don't have to do that. I can trim the tops, keeping the branches that go in over the domed area. And those will then continue to grow. And the primary leading part of the tree will have been chopped off. And the goal behind that is that then you can, it's a pretty big circle, right? It's about 4 meters, maybe 5 meters across, something like that. It's pretty big. And you could have a bunch of chairs in there, or build benches or whatever. You could put in cast aluminum furniture, or you could put in cob benching. And the key is that it would interrupt the wind, because the problem with the wind is that it blows in your face. And if this would then be a protected area, the hot smoke would go up, clearing the branches up there. And you might want to do that when it's not the driest part of the season, to get those branches cleared, or you could get in there and cut them up or something. But anyway, that's the experiment already done. But I was writing down, like, if I was to make a circle of trees and sculpt them more carefully, because that one's not sculpted well at all, but it worked. It's just you have to be really patient, and I'm a very patient person. I mean, I think about things that are, what's going to happen in 300 years, 600 years. Probably will all be extinct, but I'm trying to think of things in ways that we won't be extinct. I don't feel like walking over there. Everything needs to get macheted. All my stuff grows over. But it turned out really well, and the cedars grew really fast. Now, the other ones I want to do are made of oak. Now, if I made a circle of oaks, at first I was like, well, I can make just like, 2 meters apart, a 2-meter diameter circle of oaks, and then I could kind of make stairways that go up it with the branches. I could pick the branches I want, and then they're going to get more energy, and I could end up with this really cool spiral staircase of oak that would just be fun to go up, and then you're like a living tower. You've grown a tower out of trees. And then I thought, wait a minute, it could be bigger. Like, 2 meters, not very much. And so then I was thinking, well, there's a whole bunch of sizes I could do. And the thing is that not all of them have to work out. Obviously, with experience, we could do enough experiments where we're using trees as a building supply. Now, you may have heard it somewhere in Vietnam, maybe, or somewhere, Cambodia, I don't know where the hell it is. They use trees to grow a bridge. That's pretty dang cool. And actually, I've got a big ravine where I would like a bridge over it, and there is one spot where there's a single tree that fell over it, didn't die because the base still had enough dirt. And when trees do fall, we should always bury the base. Well, not always, but usually bury the base to keep the tree alive, and then it'll do cool stuff like shoot up new parts of it. It'll be like a living bench and stuff. We could even raise it up slightly off the ground so that it's not directly on the ground, doesn't rot. So even the trees that fall down every year during a storm could be a building supply. But we have to think about that ahead of time and be ready to respond well, because usually they just die. Now this one that went across the ravine was already there when I moved here 20 years ago, and you can't walk across it because it's just a single beam. People have walked out onto it, but I'm always afraid they're going to fall off of it and fall down into the ravine. And I don't like people getting hurt, because when they get hurt, it becomes my problem. So, but the point is, we could do that on purpose. Now that one's with a pine, but we can sculpt oaks however the hell we want. And we can even fill in parts of the ravine with dirt and then grow oaks right in the middle of it, in an area that water used to probably flow through, but it doesn't flow through because the sculpting of the land by humans above it have removed water supply. And that would make a super shaded microclimate in there as well. And we could also grow figs in there and other things. You see, the thing is, it's the wrong way to think. This is a problem I have with the scientific process as it's presented in school system, is they say, first, have a hypothesis. And then gather evidence to, unfortunately, I think they often gather evidence to just support the hypothesis. In fact, this happened in journalism when I was in journalism classes, where the editor would come to you with an idea for something, an article you could write. I remember there was one where it was in a journalism program, and the instructor type person said, well, why don't you do an article on high tech, high touch, where a bunch of geeks, computer people, because I was a computer person and she knew that, and they balanced their lives out with these high touch activities. And so she had already come up with the conclusion ahead of time, and I was supposed to go write an article. And you can see most of what passes for journalism is produced that way, where they already know what they want to say and then they just make shit up. It's not the right way to think. So this other way of thinking would be to, like in a space like this, in a natural laboratory with trees, is do a whole bunch of shit to trees and then see what happens. And you know, we can have a hypothesis sometimes, like we tried to damage trees so that they would become this really resinous pine wood. Because sometimes when a pine tree gets hit by lightning, it will start to overproduce resin, and it makes this really cool wood that's actually way more valuable than regular wood. And you can start fires with it and stuff. It's a product. So what we did was we tried to damage trees. We did like 5 of them in ways that would mimic that. That did not work. None of them produce this resinous pine wood. But that isn't important. If we're doing hundreds of experiments, like planting tree circles, and we GPS the location, we take photos, we make a web page for each one, and a whole bunch of those would end up with the conclusion that that didn't work out. I mean, I got a bunch of places where I have grafted black cherry onto black cherry because it was a black cherry tree that was more productive. And I don't even know how those experiments have turned out. I don't even know what they all are. I'm sure some of them probably died. Grafting is another area in which we could do tons and tons of tree experiments. Trees as a building supply. That is really brilliant. Do you have any other thoughts on that? I'm also using them along the sides of roads. Like I planted cedars along here, and I leave trees close in because I want to eventually shade the road. Because like right now, a lot of the walk that I'm on is in the sun, and I don't want to be walking in the sun. It's too bright. It's too hot. Like from here to way over there, I'm going to be walking in the sun. That's going to suck for me. I also thought of some just artistic projects, like there's these big stone balls you can have carved in this town. And we could also make them out of concrete or something, but this is a natural stone, so it's kind of cool. And then I want to put 3 of them down, then put 1 on top, and then cover the whole thing in dirt, and then put a bunch of baby trees on it of various kinds. And then the idea will be to wait until those trees mature to a level and they stick roots down past the rocks, on the rocks, into the dirt, and that then we can slowly start to remove the dirt, and we'll have these cool root-covered rocks. Now that's more of an art thing. That one's not pragmatic as much. It's not like the ones I'm doing that I'm doing it to create more nesting habitat for birds, for example. The oaks, I've had great success with that. And I'd also like to put platforms up in trees because I have some raptors and vultures and stuff like big birds, ravens, that they like high up places to build their nests. And I could even make like little bird tree houses high up in trees because they want to be high up, right? They like that. And that would be harder to do, but I do have some tree climbing gear. It's rope and harness and spiky shoes, which is not that evil. Come on, Jesus Christ. I talked to some tree guy I met a long time ago. This is years ago. I hold grudges really, really well. This guy, I met him with his chick or whatever, and they're both tree lovers. And I said, yeah, I have a forest, and I do these things. And I mentioned that I have this cool tree climbing spike things. And he was like, oh, that's terrible. You're stabbing the tree and all this shit. And it's like, oh, give me a break. That's like making a tiny cut on a human, you know? And yeah, it's true, the tree did not consent. Trees don't communicate very well with us in that way. But I think it's just fine to occasionally climb up a tree. Sometimes you have to do really dangerous tree work with the chainsaw high up in the tree, which just scares the hell out of me. I had a friend do that once, and I was just like sitting there like, I hope this guy doesn't fucking die. We've been so lucky here with not having hardly any injuries. The only injuries have been with guests doing dumb things. Not all of them were dumb. Like one woman from Scotland was just sitting there, and she didn't realize her leg had fallen asleep. So she stood up suddenly and started walking, and her leg was not functional, so she fell over and got a minor crack in the bone of her foot. But we still had to take her to the hospital and stuff, and she got a cast because there's a bunch of bones in your feet, I guess. I have broken several before. I've broken bones in my hands. After my accident I had a number of years ago, this cute doctor asked me all these questions when I was admitted about everything I've ever done, you know, all past injuries and drug use and everything. And it turns out I've done a lot of crazy shit. And I've actually broken a lot of stuff. Although that was the only accident that mattered, because it still fucks me up something like over 5 years later. Trees as security. There's spiky trees. I mean, I don't need to get into like all the species of trees I would like to collect here, you know, and carefully, of course, because I have a different video which is uploading right now at my house because my batteries are charged. About 2 types of invasive plants here that I want to get rid of. There's actually 2 other ones that are poisonous that are easy to get rid of, but there's 2 that are really hard to get rid of. And so really this is why I refer to sometimes that I'm sculpting the forest. And I'm trying to develop what design rules I'm using to do that. See, now here I get some shade again. We built a little bridge across here using some pieces of oak. Okay, don't fall off shit. Don't think about falling off shit or you'll fall off shit. Don't not think about falling off shit or you'll fall off shit. God damn.